So my name is YC Yin Cheng. I chair the Career Compass Committee. So very happy to welcome all of you, participants, mentors, to this career crossroads session. Navigating your next career move is a SCS career mentoring series. So just some important note. Recording has commenced, right? So participants who do not give consent to recording, please turn off your camera. And then by participating in this webinar, you consent to the recording and its reproductions to be used for webcasts and all other promotional purposes by the Singapore Computer Society and its representatives. The event does not allow unauthorized recording by any third party. And by attending this event, you agree not to record or discharge any part of the presentation. So to ensure the smooth running of today's session, I would like to encourage everyone to mute your mic. If you have any questions that you would like to ask when the speaker is sharing, please post them into the group chat. At the end of the session, we'll go into the group chat and answer the questions accordingly. Right? Can I have the next slide, please? Next slide, please. So what is this career mentoring series, right? It is a series of programs that to serve as a platform to lend support to professionals and mentees, and also to provide guidance on career development, and more importantly, right, to help prepare ICT professionals to cope with the demands of the changing infocom landscape, and also to promote peer interaction. So today, we are very happy to have the following mentors that will be around, during the breakout sessions. We have Chin Luk, Teck Chun, Tang Chiu, Naga, and also Hui Ling. So the program, today's program will be as such. So after my introduction, right, we will invite Yuxin to give a very short welcome. And then this will be followed by two sharing by Vitek as well as Jonathan. So maybe we can now invite Yuxin to kind of like give a warm welcome to all of us.
Yeah. Hi. Can you hear me? Can you hear? Okay, great. Thanks. Because some of the times this breaks down on me. Okay. Well, thank you for having me here, right? And a very warm welcome to everybody on the webinar. Yeah, our youth council mentors, reps from the WSG as well today, and our mentees for joining our 30th career mentoring session today. So this career mentoring session run by our Career Compass group, headed by Yin Cheng, is how SCS brings value to our members, right? Based upon the tenet of our SCS fraternity membership, which is a professional helping another professional with their career. So the best advice you can ever get will be from someone who has walked the journey and succeeded or has persevered so that the mentee can have an accelerated learning journey, right, and lessons and avoid some of the traps. The Career Compass was launched actually in October 2016, and it was officiated at that time by our Minister of Manpower, right, one of us, Mr. Lim Swee Say, right, in collaboration with the Workforce Singapore, IMDA, Skills Future Singapore, NTUC, and the E2I, with the aim to support the development of ICT professionals and overall growth of the ICT industry. So to date, you might be pleased to know we've assisted more than 1,500 professionals via our 36 Career Compass events, including career mentoring, career preparatory workshops, such as this, and career fairs and site visits. So we've also grown from a pool of 11 SCS ICT career mentors when we started to 215 mentors today. So I'd like to thank every mentor for helping our fellow members, providing career development advice, as well as insights on the latest trends and demands of the rapidly changing ICT landscape. Okay, for some of you who know that I'm also a part of the NJC and this National Jobs Council, and this particular career compass plays a huge role and will be able to play an even larger role as we go forward. Because one of the largest pool, okay, of employment opportunities actually comes from our ICT industry, only because we're embedded in every other industry today, right? So many of our, while that is the case, right, many of our members actually also feel or they face, right, career kind of seemingly career ending, sight, or line of sight. So instead of having that dark path, right, I think the role of all of you mentors is really, and myself as well, is really to bring everybody along, right? And if we have opportunities that we know of, is to immediately match, our people seeking jobs, right, to the jobs at hand. And then on a longer path, right, is to actually look at the various career paths, which are now plentiful, right, in existence, and to actually help our fellow mentees along the way, because one day we ourselves will need that help as well. So I like to actually congratulate all of you and acknowledge all of you, right, for taking that time and that the effort, to help our fellow ICT professional. So have a good session ahead, and yeah, and again, great acknowledgement for all the great work that you've done. Thanks. Yeah, over to you, Yin Ching.
All right, thank you very much, Yuxin. So without further ado, shall we welcome Vitek, CEO, Trusted Services, also CEO of and a few others of Temasek related entities, to share on this topic of navigating your next career move.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you for that. So actually, technically, I only run two companies, Trusted Services and Deep INT. TMS is a holding company, so there's actually very little operational matters there. So thank you for inviting me to speak. You can hear me loud and clear, yes? Yim Ching, I think that's just...
yeah, very good.
All right, so I'm gonna maybe just share a screen. Bear with me a little while. I'm just gonna pull up the screen. When you can see it, it'd be good if you can just let me know. Yes, you can see it. Okay,
yep.
Since the introduction is made, I wouldn't do that. I'll just move on to my other nonsense first. I also do a lot of other nonsense, like I like to doodle, and it's like taking photograph. Some people like to go on the weekend, take lots of photographs of the birds, nature, and so on. I like to sketch, so I do a lot of sketching. I have an Instagram, you can come follow me. Decent follower, not too bad. Little social influencer wannabe, if you like. But I have a lot of fun doing this. I get to know a lot of the Singapore artists, watercolors, professionals, if you like. So that's my other tribe that I hang out with a lot. I also have my YouTube channel. I've been playing with YouTube channel since the beginning of the COVID circuit breaker. I started posting more regularly in May. I now have about 600-ish subscribers. It's gone up from the time I captured this screenshot. It's kind of fun at the moment when you're capturing and putting up. One of my latest was on Chinatown. So I talk to someone who has grown up there and a bit of a drone shot and stuff like that. So I'm trying to do media. One of the reasons why I wanted to do this was because I feel that in today's world, when you're a leader, you need to be very comfortable with the camera. And when you are a old school leader, you talk to an auditorium of 200, 300, 500 people. But when you are a new school leader, you need to talk to millions of people out there in the world. And so you need to be very, very comfortable in front of the camera. And there are 10,000 bad videos of you. So the sooner you get rid of that, the better it is. So my way is just do a lot of it. And then, after that, you learn how to handle the camera yourself, take media, and you speak naturally in front of camera. And then you can be a leader in a new world, so that you can speak to thousands, millions. The whole world population is your limit. I start with this picture. It's the Ikigai. I mean, the Japanese has this concept where we talk about life's purpose, right? So we talk about navigating our career and so on. Even as I look at my own direction, I'm always, thinking, right, what do I love to do? What am I good at? Of course, what pays well. right? So the three circle and the three, the Venn diagram that you see here, of course, lots of artists, they love what they do. They are pretty good at what they do. Unfortunately, it doesn't pay well. Sorry, I should maybe not say artists, because that gives a perception that artists don't really make money. I have a lot of friends who actually make good money as a professional artist, but there are some career in the sense that people picked, but they don't pay well. So they are happy, but they are poor, right? And of course, those people who actually, are good whatever they do, and it pays well, they are, but unfortunately, they don't really like what they do. So they are rich, but they are bored, right? I would like to say bankers, but maybe that's also, it's wrong politically. So I shouldn't say bankers, right? But there are, friends who are like complaining every weekends, when you see them or whatever. They're pretty good at what they do. They get paid well, and you live a very comfortable life, but they are very, very bored. Of course, there are people who are, who they love what they do. It pays well, but they're not very good at it, right? So they are in kind of high risk, because when the disruption happens, digitalization or whatever transformation, they're the first to go, because they're not very good at it. They are being too well paid, so they are the first to be chopped, right? In that sense. Of course, the sweet spot is right in the middle. You love what you do, you're good at it, and it pays well. Yay, right? And I hope that all of you are in that sweet spot. If you are not, then listen on, because I'll give you some tips around how you can start to position yourself towards what that sweet spot could be. Sometimes it's just internal engineering in your head. Sometimes it's really real engineering of getting yourself a degree, an improvement to what you are. Okay, so keep this page in mind. Okay, before I talk about the specifics, though, I do want to talk about the mega trends. I think many times we look at career and say, oh, what's cool? Well, data scientist is cool. What's also cool? Well, maybe blockchain is cool. So we start to update our LinkedIn and say, expert blockchain / AI / machine learning / the more you slash, the better it is, right? But of course, after 3 or 4 of those slashes, if I see someone's LinkedIn with those number of professional expertise, I start to question how many in a lifetime can you collect, right? How can you be an AI blockchain, AR, VR, PM, extraordinary? You can't be so many things in a lifetime. There's no one after 30 years of working in the IT world can you be so good at it, right? Impossible. But one of the things that people start to think about in a career navigating is that, well, I want to navigate to what is best, but it's very important to think about the trends, the tsunami that's hitting us, because it is in the context of the time we lived in that your navigation has to be considered, right? Do we know what's coming next, and so on? So I'll give you some thoughts around the mega trends, and then hopefully with these mega trends, and then on top of that, you think about what are the key things that's coming. You kind of just gel them together into a gestalt to think about what is really, really appropriate and best for you to navigate your career. The first one, clearly, is China ascent. I don't think we can avoid this, right? Even the Americas, US is waking up to it from 2016, when they start to put, pit against the upcoming, basically the fight for number 1. The number 2 is coming up, and so number 1 finally wakes up, and so there is a lot of issue around it. But even if you don't talk about the trade war and US and so on, the fact that China ascends, and China ascends from a technology perspective, China ascends from an economic power perspective, it impacts us. If it's not my lifetime, clearly in my church, my daughter's lifetime, she will have to face this. I always tell her, Daddy might one day work for the Chinese, company. That is a maybe. But for you, quite certain, in some way or form, you will have to work, if not for the Chinese, definitely with the Chinese to a large extent. Just like a lot of us, when we are growing up, we work with the American or MNCs with an American bias. But I think in the next 20 years, the China bias is clearly there. The second one, as along those lines, you see a lot of Chinese company making Singapore headquarters. The most recent one is ByteDance. Of course, they have been blacklisted by America. They are, and so on and so forth. But actually, one of the things that we're seeing, and this is good for Singapore, and I think you got to keep this in mind, it's one of the mega trends, right? the Chinese are making Singapore the HQ for their outside of China, right? So I don't think I want to go in and explain why Singapore is a natural place for them to be headquartered and so on. You can kind of half guess that to some extent, but the reality is that they are moving here for the headquarter of their practice outside of China, and it is a good thing for Singapore or Singaporean, Singapore-based or Singaporean professionals, specifically IT. The next one, of course, is trade war. I think this is really one of the issues that we have to grapple with. Biden, well, can you say Biden won? Well, hasn't conceded yet, but but the reality is that Biden, even though he takes over, I don't think the trade war will go away. If there's any that is bipartisan sort of alignment, I think trade war is one of them. And I think clearly we're going to see a few results based on this trend. One of them is the bifurcation of the technology stack. And I think the Chinese are looking at having their own native technology and stack so that it's going to operate very differently from the Google and the Facebook and the Instagram and those that are blocked from China. So I think you have a bifurcation, which means even as a Singapore Computer Society, we have to think about how do we actually at some point certify two different stack, right? It will be like the Apple and the Apple and Windows, right? If you remember those days when you have two different stack in a, even now today you kind of have that, but it's not so prevalent. But I think in the near term, we will have a bifurcation of technology where there'll be the Chinese stack and then there'll be the Western or the American stack. That has repercussion on the technology that we worked on, and it is certainly one of the mega trends going to hit us. It's surely like a train that is not going to go away. The next one, mega trend, is on sustainability. Every single client I talk to, every single leaders that I talk to, they are embedding sustainability into their thinking. It is not just the fact that they themselves may not really 100% believe in it, but the circumstances and all the trending of banking, the trending of technology, and the trending of how the young people are thinking. A lot of you are younger than me certainly, and you will be thinking about sustainability. You'll be thinking about, there is no planet B, so we better jolly take care of this planet that we're in, right? So sustainability agenda is going to be very, very massive and big. And I think this is something that even as you consider how you navigate your career, beside China Ascends, beside the trade war, beside the bifurcation of the technology stack, sustainability, how is that going to impact my career choice in that sense, right? One more that is massive, and I think, although I don't really want to go specifically into the technology stack per se, if you think about artificial intelligence, this is clearly one of the big ones. And I think, clearly AI is in everything that we do. I mean, when I chair the, skills profiling committee, one of the things I talk about often is this, right? We're coming to a stage where our programs, the code that we write has real life implication. Let me explain. When I was growing up, I was banking IT, right? So I was a programmer and I wrote lots of code. If my program has error, guess what? Customer will have wrong calculation. Maybe they get more money in their, interest calculation or less. Maybe the reports that was generated as in the form of the bill is wrong, right? But today, if you are writing code and you're putting in AI into, say, the Tesla, or you put your code into, let's say, the surgical arm of a robotic surgeon, right? Or you put it into a 737 MAX 8, the new plane that hasn't flown yet, or once it's grounded. There are real life implications to the code that you write, right? So I think what will happen in the next 5 years, maybe 5, maybe 8, I don't know how many years, this is up to speculative, all of us can speculate, maybe put a bet on it. But I think governments will wake up to the fact that this is engineering, prim and proper. Just like engineers building bridges, and when bridges collapse, someone has to be like signing off and say, there's something wrong with it. So maybe we have to think about how to certify the engineer who signed off the design, right? And I think in the same way, AI will come to that. I think regulation will happen at 3 levels. One is the company, Boeing. Second is the product, 737 MAX 8. And third, and this is where I think it's going to happen, is the individual AI professional. They will be certified in order to sign off on the final design that goes into production and goes into the installation of the Tesla, the robotic surgeon, and the plane that flies in the air. I think that has real repercussion on professionals in the ICT world. Not every area in ICT will go through the same sort of regulations. I think AI is one of the candidates that will go first, that will get hit in that sense. The world is spinning faster and faster. I actually hate this word called the new normal. Have you all heard this concept, new normal? Like people talk about, oh, this is a new normal. The problem I have with the new normal is this, right? The new normal seems like there's a certain change and then there's a step up and then there's a new normal and then life goes on for a while and then it step up again and then life goes on for a while. It's kind of like a linear world in that sense. But no, actually the world is not modeled like that. If you know your maths, we are in a dy dx square, right, territory, right? We are in an accelerating, like a hockey stick change, right? Accelerating change is the right word, I think. Telephone took 75 years to reach 50 million users. 75 years, almost a century, right? Angry Bird, 35 days. Okay, that was a bit faster. But of course, Chewbacca Mum, you heard of Chewbacca Mum, right? I'm not sure whether you have seen the YouTube video on Chewbacca Mum. 50 million views, 24 hours. Literally one day. Bang, 50 million views, right? The world is accelerating. It is not going linear with a step change called new normal, right? It is not. New normal is a concept of, like linear change, right? It's not. It is accelerating change. Our mind's not geared up to understand this. This trend is terrible because we are used to like, oh, when we were young, we were from 1, it moved to 2. Okay, 2 after a while goes to 4. Now we're going from 16 to 32 to 64 to 128. It is now going up the hockey stick. Our mind fails to understand exponential curve. We are not equipped with it, right? Our parents not equipped with it, right? I mean, to be fair, my mom still doesn't quite know what I do. Years I've been trying to explain. She still thinks I fixed the TV because TV, ATM, same, right? They all have a screen and some button. So okay, I'm not laughing at my mom. That's bad. But the point is, lots of people don't understand the accelerating change. And now we have jobs such as AI psychology, right? When the Tesla hits somebody wrongly, right? Let's say on the road, there's a dog and there's a person and Tesla decides to hit the person rather than the dog. Who do you send? Well, you send somebody called AI psychologist. Well, the psychologist is not to fix the person. The psychologist is to fix the car AI, right? I'm not sure whether, jobs like this will continue to pop up out of nowhere at an exponential rate because the world is changing, at an exponential rate, right? So that's again very, very exciting. Business model disruption. This is a big one. We are seeing like old business model are just failing to cope up, and things are just changing so fast, right? I won't tell you a story, but I'll tell you one, and that's kind of important and interesting. There was a guy called Shai Agassi. I don't have a photo of it here, but you can Google him. He was a big honcho in SAP, top 2, 3. He was supposed to be the CEO, this is more than 15 years ago, but he didn't make it. So what did he do? He decided to quit and he went to Israel and he started his own electric car company. And he has this brilliant idea. Okay, the idea was brilliant, but unfortunately it was too early. So he ultimately failed, but his idea was a business model disruption. One of the challenge of electric car is when you are driving an electric car and you go to a electric station, it takes forever to charge. So you would like your battery to be swapped. And when your battery is swapped, then you can drive away in 5 minutes, just like a top up of a gas tank, if you like. So if you have a lot of these stations all around the country and you're driving your electric car anywhere and you go into this station, you get your electric battery swap, then you have a system and the whole system will work and people will buy electric car because you can go for miles and you don't have to stop for whatever reason. Brilliant, right? But one problem is that if you own a car and the battery is yours and you go in with a new car and then you get swapped an old battery, you wouldn't be very happy, right? Because you have no control over the battery itself that's been swapped. So he said, okay, nobody owns battery, nobody owns a car. All the car will be leased. When you buy into the whole system, you're leasing your car for 10 years and you pay on a subscription model. And when you pay your car on a subscription model, it's kind of like having your phone. Today, you walk into Singtel and you get your iPhone 12. You can actually, depending on the contract that you have, you can almost pay very little for it, right? Let's say the phone is $2,000. I just got my new phone. I haven't switched it on yet, but it looks very nice. So tonight I'm going to get a new phone. But the idea is that you go get your phone, you pay much less than the capital, but you pay a little bit more every month for your subscription. And in 2 years or whatever, your phone is actually paid for, but you didn't feel the pinch because you're paying and you get service. So why don't we sell electric car like phone, except it is not purchased, but it is leased? So brilliant idea, right? Because now you're flipping the model of selling electric car with a completely new idea. I can think of many other sort of example. We don't really have time to go through all that, but this is one of the mega trend. We're going to see continuous model disruption, business model disruption out there. And you don't want to pick a career and find yourself having to navigate away because the model that you picked is going to be disrupted in the near term. So it's something that you have to keep in mind as you navigate the future. Gig economy. Would it be nice if you're a programmer and then you are also living in Bali and you can go surf every morning in the beach, laze around, and when you need to submit your code, you submit it online somewhere in Bali? Well, lots of people do that in that sense, but I think the bigger picture is that there's this whole new gig economy that is at play. When I wrote my book in 2016, I had about 16 gig economy behind me working on different things. So let me pull out the books and I show you. So the cover was done by somebody from Pakistan. The layout was done by somebody from Romania. The editing was done by 3 chaps, 2 in UK, 1 in US, so on and so forth, right? Ultimately, the whole book was a production where I'm the chief editor, but ultimately it is a production of a bunch of gig economy behind me, right? I think this is coming, and I think you don't want to pick a career where it can be disrupted by the gig workers elsewhere, right? Because Singapore, as you know, is an expensive place unless you can normalize your salary structure or compensation such a way that you can do way better than somebody who lives in Pakistan, and your skill is better than a person by X number of percentage. You will be competing against someone from somewhere else, because Fiverr.com, Upwork.com, has the ability for you to hire somebody today based on a reverse auction. So when I want something done, I write up a little auction, I put it out there on Upwork.com, and somebody will bid for it. Best price, best rating gets the job. And sometimes because it's relatively cheap, I will hire 2 persons for the same job. And after 1 round, I'll keep the better one and I will drop off the other one, and the better one will continue to do more jobs for me. So the gig economy is clearly coming, right? Like it or not. The next one is don't chase the butterflies. Many of us would like to chase blockchain, AI, machine learning, all the buzzword. We like to chase those titles in our LinkedIn too. So, we like our LinkedIn has many addendum to it, experts in all these areas. Normally, if someone comes to me and they want to, LinkedIn with me and they have more than 3, I don't think it is possible for somebody to collect more than 3. Of course, if you are 1 and you really can demonstrate that you are an AI expert, that is fantastic, right? But so don't chase the butterflies. There's many butterflies out there in the IT world today. It is not worth your time. Better off to chase real skills and real impact to the society, right? So I'm going to talk about a few things, and this is a bit more of a, now that I covered the why, right? Something that you're good at, you're happy, and it pays, right? Yay. And then, of course, you have to be very clear on the mega trends. There are 3 things that you need to work on in terms of development. The first one is people skills. The second one is professional development. Third is industry knowledge. You can't get rid of this. We used to think about the T-shaped skills, right? The T as in like, you have a deep end and then you need to be broad. People talk about pie. You need to be on 2 feet. Now we're talking about 3, right? If you choose 3 very broadly, the first one is soft skills. You need to inspire people. You need to manage people. As a leader, you need to talk about followability, right? People want to follow you to the battlefield and they want to fight alongside you, and you are the general and they want to be in your team, right? The people's skill, how do you inspire? You want to put fire in people's heart, not in people's, never mind, I cannot say this PG 13, so I cannot use the word, but I think you get the point. So you're gonna put fire in people's heart, not in, you know, so the old style of whipping people doesn't work, right? So you want to inspire that soft skills, that ability to speak, communicate, be comfortable in front of the camera, because we Zoom every day, right? So we gotta be comfortable with the camera. That is so important, people skill. Professional development, our hard skills. If you're in a hardcore tech area, then you must make sure you are, you know, even though you're CEO, you still need to be very good at your tech skills. You've got to be constantly in touch with the latest technology. Well, it's very hard because the technologies change so fast at an accelerating pace, right? Accelerating change. What do you do? Well, what I do is I network widely, right? So just recently, when I wanted to know what is the latest in Google, what's the latest in Microsoft, guess what? I called Kevin from Microsoft and I drop a note to my good friends in Google. I drop a note in AWS and I say, okay, can I talk to your architects? And I have a very good conversation on the phone with the architects and I pick their brain, right? What's the latest? What are they thinking? You know, do they have specialist software in this area and that area? It's beyond the point where I can read everything online and I can Google, I can search. That is just too slow for me. So I leverage on my network, right? But that's still professional development because I get to know what is the latest in Google, what's the latest in Microsoft, what's the latest in AWS, through a few very strategic phone calls and WhatsApp messages, right? And then I learn much, much faster. That's because I don't have time. I'm time starved, right? But I'm still developing my understanding of what is the latest in terms of technology and so on and so forth, right? So that's professional development. Industry knowledge. My deep end is banking. I've always been in banking, 20 over years in banking. I've done, you know, banking mergers, banking core system development, and you know, whenever I talk to clients not in the banking world, I fall back on my banking knowledge and I talk about banking. Right, banking is complicated, so it provides me a wealth of knowledge and experience for me to tap on and talk about stories and tell you 101 story from banking, right? You know, I can talk about banking situation when we were cutting over software over a weekend, when things fail, regulators, you know, how do you deal with regulators, friendly regulators, unfriendly regulators. I've seen them all. So industry knowledge is where you still need to go in and build something. So I would suggest, you know, develop your soft skill, develop your professional development, tech skills, in whatever form, shape it is, get into an industry and be deep in it and not be just a cursory. If you're in sales, then it's a bit of a tough one. You still need to figure out what is your professional development, right? I think Singapore was not, advantageous enough in the last 15 years or so, because oftentimes in the 15 years or so, we offshore a lot of our work to Philippines, to India, Vietnam, or whatever it is. And so in Singapore, we became a bit of a generalist, 15 years ago, 10 years ago. 5 years ago, we started realizing that can't do. We really need to have technology, right? People who run company, but they had spent 5-10 years on the technology front. So I think that is where we need to go still. I'm not saying everybody needs to learn how to code, but everybody needs to be a technologist to let, So 3 things you need to think about. Am I developing my soft skills? Am I developing my technical professional skills? Am I developing a deep end on my industry knowledge? Because these 3 coming together will become the core of what you're very, very good at. The 5 things I like to think about as an adult learning. I think the next session you talk about how do you learn. I have a simple tip for you when you're looking at learning something, anything, right? And that is basically M&M. That's why the picture of the chocolate M&M, right? A-E-I-O-U. A-E-I-O-U. You see material, membership, mind, motivation, muscle. It starts with A-M-A-M-E-M-I-M-O-M, right? Very quickly, how do you navigate? Well, if you want to navigate yourself into any areas that maybe is not your core skills, you probably need to learn something new. In order to learn something new, there are 5 things you need to consider. What's motivating you? Why are you motivated to get into this space? I had a friend who was basically wanting to learn Korean. So I asked him, why do you want to learn Korean? Because, I am watching Korean drama. So I really want to improve my enjoyment of Korean drama. I said, oh, very good. Then a few days later, happen chance, another guy came along and said, I want to learn Korean. I'm like, why everybody's learning Korean? So what's your story? Why are you learning Korean? I got a Korean girlfriend. I want to marry her. So I better learn Korean so that I can communicate with my girlfriend. I said, yeah, I think motivation level for the second one seems to be higher. Korean drama seems to be lower. A few months later, I bump into them again. The Korean girlfriend guy basically told me, I girlfriend dumped me, so I'm not learning Korean anymore. Motivation gone. But the guy who watched Korean today speaks Korean because he obviously has been really loving Korean drama. He speaks Korean even today. So motivation for you to learn something is not just, because yeah, you want to become an AI expert. So you take a 2 weeks course from London LSE, and then you 2 weeks, blockchain or AI or whatever. But what's motivating you? If you are really motivated, you're going to go the long way. You're going to build something, to the end. You're going to spend time and effort in it. So motivation is very important. It's the fuel of learning, right? But when we say we learn, what is it? It's mind. You develop your mind. The mind can be reading a book, or you can talk to a mentor like today, and you get something, information new, right? Membership, you join SCS. That's why you network like crazy, in order for you to learn something, and you continue to learn because it's membership. Membership is so important. When I wanted to learn how to paint, guess what? I figured out what is the membership in Singapore on sketching and watercolor, and I go join them, right? Material. What are the things? If you want to learn how to cycle, you better get a good bicycle, right? You want to run, you better get a good shoe, right? Muscle. Well, it's the development of the muscle, right? So that, I spend 6-7 hours a week in gym to learn Muay Thai and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So, I'm trying to learn some muscle. Getting too old, that's getting a bit hard. But you get what I'm trying to say. Think about the 5 things if you are getting into something new. These are the 5 considerations for you to attack a different era, an area, a different career even, right? So my point is you need to start thinking about the 5 things, right? Developing your mind, developing your motivation, figure out your membership and the tools that you need, and develop your muscles along the way. I have few more minutes, okay? So I want to talk about this final thing, very, very important. Alvin Toffler says the illiterate of the 21st centuries are not those that cannot read and write. Okay, that's the 20th century illiterate. The 21st century illiterate are those that cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. Those are the illiterate. If you haven't figured out how to learn, unlearn, relearn, then that is going to be your challenge. You are the illiterate of the 21st century, according to Alvin Toffler, that is. But this is not new. Even Peter Drucker said this. We now accept the fact that learning is a lifelong process of keeping abreast of change, accelerating change, by the way. And the most pressing task is to teach people how to learn. Okay, I think our schools still teach subject. We still don't teach people how to learn, which is the problem, right? Well, they're trying, to be fair. Our MOE is trying very hard to move people on how to learn, but we still are about giving information, giving content, and so on. So my question to you is, as you navigate in the new world, are you thinking about what you love, what you're good at, and what pays well? Because if those 3 intersect, yay, that's the sweet spot you want to be. That's where you want to stay, camp out, don't go away. But the problem in an accelerating change with all the mega trend behind you, you know what's happening, right? It's changing. So even as you stay in the yay, you cannot be complacent. While you're staying in the yay, you still need to run a bit, seeing where the changes is happening. Because what you're good at may not be good enough for tomorrow. So you still need to change. And as your motivation change in life, what you love may also change. So you also need to navigate that part of it. And what pays well suddenly change very constantly based on market demand. So all those bubbles are always in dynamic shifts. You always have to constantly readjust, do an annual evaluation, do a weekly evaluation, or okay, weekly too much. I think, all of us don't have the capacity to think weekly, but every year, at least you take time out and you must go and reflect. Okay, do I still like this thing? Am I still good at it? Does it still pay well? Okay, I'm still in the yay. All right, for one more year, I think I'm good, but I still need to keep myself learning. So that is what I want to leave with you. We all need to continue to think about the yay. All right, YC, back to you.
All right.
And today I'm going to talk a little bit more about learning how to learn, right? And essentially, well, learning is really a lifelong learning journey, right? We earlier on said the illiterate people of the 21st century are the people who can't learn, unlearn, and relearn, right? I hope I got that right, Vitek. So that essentially is pretty much what I'm going to be talking about today, right? But I'll go deeper into that through talking about a story and a few other things. But first and foremost, let me introduce ThoughtWorks, right? In case you haven't heard of us before. So, of course, I'm from ThoughtWorks. I hope you can see the name here. And essentially, ThoughtWorks is a global software consultancy. It is a company that brings clients to help them to navigate disruption. What's disruption? Disruption is if something comes along to potentially make your business obsolete, right? To help to enable them through the software that we build, and not just software, sometimes it's re-architecting their entire systems to create digital capabilities that they didn't have before. Right, we also enable clients to do what they do even better. And a lot of our clients actually, they have their own technical teams. So why do they still come to ThoughtWorks to get us to build software for them? So that is probably a different topic altogether, right? But essentially we are a place, and it's a company that I'm really happy to be at, where talented individuals go to do what we love. I really feel that I'm free to make my mark. I think I'm good at what I do. I think and I do enjoy what I do, and I think I get paid pretty well. So I'm in that yay zone that we mentioned earlier on also, and I do feel that we do make a difference in people's lives, not just our clients, but also the community around us, because that's a very important part of our company. Right, so that's what ThoughtWorks is, and of course, SES, thank you for also being such a supporter. You've given us the best tech company to work for, that award in 2019. That's something that we are really humbled to receive. And we've also beaten out some of the large companies, and this is actually in a larger company section, right, to get this award. So we are incredibly humbled to get that award as well. Right, so over to myself. I am Jonathan. It's very nice to meet all of you here today. And what the kind of experience that I had might not be let me just go into it, right? It will be in talent acquisition, right? It's my role, it's my passion ever since I've come out of university, right? This is my first full-time role since I've come out of university. And 4 of those years I've spent in ThoughtWorks. So the role that I'm playing today is a Singapore recruitment lead. I'm accountable for all of the hiring in Singapore, and I'm also a member of the Southeast Asia leadership team, right? So I studied something completely unrelated. I did not study HR. I did not study anything in business, but I took a minor in business. I studied visual communication, and what that means is that I could go and be a designer if I so wanted to, right? I'm a new dad as well, so you might hear a bit of crying in the background. So that's me and my 2.5-month baby. Still a lot to learn, a lot of things to learn. I got my driving license on my 3rd attempt, and not that I'm proud of it, right? But it's something that I think can help to illustrate the points here today. And I also attempted to start my own business after graduation. Long story short, why that didn't happen or pan out was because I did some research. I did some market research and competitor analysis, and I found out that there were already enough competitors in the market that were actually pretty large, right? The barriers to entry were pretty heavy. And even though, yes, I had certain advantages on my side, it didn't make economic sense. So I decided to bite the bullet and just remove. I did make some investments already, but I decided to just withdraw, which actually brought me to, if I think about my entire journey, while it didn't start out swimmingly well, where I am here today, I feel really happy about the position that I'm in today. Right, happy for a lot of reasons. Happy because the challenge that I've been facing, the learning curve that I've experienced. Yes, after a while, if you're doing what you're doing and you're good at it, you will start to taper off a bit, right? It starts to be a bit easier. But I also realized that there are even more things that I don't know. and then the learning curve goes up again. And I'm in that position here today in ThoughtWorks also. Right, so now that you know about ThoughtWorks, now you don't know about me, let's go a little bit more about learning and why I would like to share with you about learning how to learn here today. Okay, I'll tell you a story. So it's a fable. I think a lot of you probably know this story. I'll also talk to you about key to success, right? Is there a key to success? That's why there's a question mark there. I'll also talk about identifying potential. That's essentially what I do, right? As someone in recruitment, I'm not just hiring people for what they can do today. That's incredibly short-sighted. What I hope to do in my job, hope to achieve in my job, is to find people who have the potential to do that role and even more. Because we are not just hiring people to do that one role, we're hiring people and growing them as well. And of course, 3 main takeaways. If you can't remember the many words that I've spoken here today, just 3 things for you to take away right from this talk here. All right, so that brings me to the story. So the story here today I'm going to talk about is the tortoise and the hare. I'm sure some of you already know it, but for those of you who don't, here's a short description of what the story is. So the hare made fun of the tortoise because the tortoise moves so slowly compared to the hare. The tortoise then challenged the hare to a race to prove that it was faster than it appeared to be. Okay, the hare accepted. Went far ahead, got a little tired and rested. The hare overslept and the tortoise won. So the race does not always go to the swift. That's the moral of the story. And the tortoise was successful here. So what then would be the keys to success, right? Would it be persistence? Would it be focus? Agility? Now the truth is that you will tend to see successful people with at least one of these attributes here. One of these 3 attributes. I'll go into what each of these mean very shortly. But besides attributes, there's something else also that we usually see in successful people. Success is most observable in people with a growth mindset. Mind is one of the things that also VTech, I'm referring to VTech's talk a lot, right? Because there's so much value in what you just mentioned, right? So there is, mindset is also very important. So I know and I've accepted that I'm not special, right? Sure, I have a sister. I have 2 sisters. So I may be better than one of my sisters in something. But she's definitely better than me in other things as well, right? We're all human. We're all born with so much potential. I may have believed that I am talented in some way earlier on in life. Of course, we all have certain preconceived notions of where we are and how good we are. But I think part of having and adopting a growth mindset is to embrace failures. All of us have experienced failures. I've experienced some failures myself. Driving, I failed twice. As a dad, I haven't dropped my kid yet. I hope I don't drop my kid, right? But when I do, or if I do, I must embrace it and learn from that also, right? And for example, the business that didn't pan out, I failed. And it's important to have that mindset, to learn that we're not extraordinary. And why that's so important, right? Neuroscience shows that our brain changes and becomes more capable when we work hard to improve ourselves, right? So we need to learn how to develop our abilities. So let's go back to the story of the tortoise and the hare. Right, the tortoise won. Amazing stuff. But what can we learn from it? So persistence and focus, right? We can learn these 2 things. But persistence essentially means to keep on doing it. You need to set a goal and you need to work towards it. So let's raise an example. Say you want to learn a new programming language, right? We are here, we are at Singapore Computer Society. And let's say that language is Python. What you need to do is that you need to pick up course first, right? You follow the course structure, you get to the quizzes, the exams, but you also need to practice. Finishing a course and getting a certificate does not mean that you can code in Python. It just means that you persisted through the course. I know this because I went through a Python course myself, but I only better understood it by applying it to my work. Right? I applied it to write certain scripts that help me to perform certain tasks more effectively in my work. So be very specific about your goal. And say, if you want to write a script to automate activity X, go ahead and do it, right? Make that your goal. Now, I'm moving on to focus here. Give me a while, just drink a bit of water. So focus. Focus is extremely key. Now, it's not just in terms of putting a target in sights. You need to keep the goal in mind and stick to it. Now, let's take the Python example. Don't get distracted by shinier or newer languages or by attempting to accomplish multiple goals at a time, right? So say, for example, if you try to accomplish 3 goals and say you take 10 hours to accomplish one of the 3 goals, right? You actually take much longer than 30 hours to accomplish all 3 because of this switching cost. There's always that switching cost if you want to try and multitask and accomplish more things at once, right? Sure, you can do it, but there will be that switching cost, and do take that into account. So what I recommend is to relentlessly focus on one of them before moving on, or your progress will actually be slowed down, right? Deliberate practice, in essence, is a combination of these two. You persist, you keep doing it, you focus on that one thing. So we learn about the tortoise and what are some things that we can take away from the tortoise. But what about the hare? No, while the hare didn't win the race, there are still things that we can learn to do by using hindsight. You know, what the hare should have done to ensure that it would win. And what we can learn from the hare here is agility, right? The hare had natural talent. It's really agile to win the race easily. But while it certainly gave it an advantage, right, it did not take it all the way to win the race. Right? Talent is important, but what is also important is seeking feedback quickly. Seeking feedback quickly is another way of tracking progress, right? So, for example, what the hare here could have done is, if it was a bit more, yes, you can take a rest, but don't nap, don't sleep. Be a bit aware. Or if you see the tortoise coming and reaching, if it was a bit more aware, use the feedback it got from its eyes and see the tortoise coming, could come out and immediately finish the race, right? So that's one example of seeking feedback. And this is key, right? Feedback in itself is a huge topic. Over here at ThoughtWorks, we look at it quite deeply. How you seek feedback, right? How you actually go and find that feedback, ask people for feedback, that's one. How you give the feedback, how you actually use that feedback, all right? And using it to deal with this feedback, and how you receive that feedback. All these 4 aspects, right? We learn in ThoughtWorks because it's a huge aspect of our feedback culture here. Right, so all these 4 aspects of feedback, I won't go into deep detail, but feedback, it may not be easy if you're looking for honest feedback. So either find someone you trust or look for a tool to measure it. So one other thing here, of course, the last point that we can learn in hindsight from the hare, we need to look to the process of improvement. Don't look at the price, right? Don't look at, how much money can I earn if I go into this field? Oh, there's a lot of money. All right. So what if you hit that pay? Doesn't mean you have ended. No, that just means that you've reached one part of your goal, right? You need to keep on evolving, change your goal once you hit it as well. That's how you keep growing. That's how you keep learning. And that's how you keep on having that growth mindset. This sticker over on the right side, right? When in doubt, refactor. It's a term that's used in programming. If you ever have a doubt whether your code is in its best state or not, right? Just go ahead and refactor and adjust it without changing how the code overall behaves. You're optimizing it. When you are in doubt, go ahead and refactor and improve. Keep improving, right? So now these three elements, right? Persistence, focus, agility. These three elements that we learn are key in a person's continued growth and potential. And I look for them daily in my work. Now, in order to help each of you here see how I uncover signs of these, let me share how I interview for potential, and perhaps you could use some of these pieces of knowledge that I've shared to also tweak how you answer questions, right? So how I interview for potential. Obviously, I look for growth mindset, but how do I find that? Quite a few areas, right? I look for preparedness. Preparedness comes in a form when the candidate can tell me what makes the company that you're applying for unique. Instead of just giving some generic answer, oh, I want to be able to contribute my skills to this company. You can say that for every company, right? Now, I'm not looking for that. I want to look for you being prepared and actually spending time to learn about the conversation or prepare for the conversation here today. I also asked about whether you've started anything. Have you failed? The candidate does not wait to be told what to do, right? That's what I'm looking for, a candidate that is self-driven, a candidate that has tried a new process or a way of doing things without being told to do so by boss, right? Self-driven, I'm looking for that as well. What is the newest thing that you've learned recently? So if we look at the technology industry, and honestly, I think any industry, so technology industry in itself, it's constantly on the move, right? The slow gets swallowed whole. So even sharing about something, like picking up a new way of doing something simple, or perhaps cooking a new dish, or reading and applying something that you read from your latest book or even article, is better than telling me about a course certificate that you took 3 years ago. Because whatever that you've picked up, whatever that you've spent your time to do something that you never were able to do before, that shows growth. I also try to figure out, how does this person learn? Right? So yes, it is the information age. A lot of the information, rather than all, is at your fingertips. Google, do a search, and you no longer need to make a trip to the library to do your deep research. Yes, although that can still be effective for deep research at grad or post-grad level, but a lot of the information that you need is available online nowadays. Learning from multiple sources, not just reading, say from your mentors, from videos, they help make learning holistic. And of course, the cherry on top is to apply that learning to your work or to whatever they are doing. I also look for a person's approach to failures. Now, I want to hear how you found an alternative and learn to be like water, like Bruce Lee, right? Be like water and find the best way to rise from that failure and accomplish the goal. Instead of, oh, this happened because the company situation was so and so and so I couldn't do much. Okay, yes, that happens sometimes, but what have you tried even in that situation, right? Tell me about what are the approaches that you've had. Or did you decide to blame it on the consequences only, right? I think the last thing here, definitely not least, follow-up questions. So in the interview itself, in the conversation that just happened, if you can spend time to talk to me and ask me a question about what we have just conversed about, it shows that you are learning on the fly. You have a sharp and active mind that is continuously picking up from experiences, and you are ever evolving. That really shows growth mindset in action. And now that I've told you how your different answers in an interview can reveal certain characteristics, it may seem daunting if your previous role was one that got you to stagnate. And you might wonder, oh crap, is that the end of the road for me? No, it's not. If you can't remember everything here today, I'm at my last slide and I'm going to talk to you about 3 main takeaways. Remember and do the following 3 things. Persistence. Repeated exposure, right? Pick up the last book you put down, the guitar that you've left there to rust, change the strings, put it in your calendar before you go to bed. Just 15 minutes a day, right? If you want to increase, sure, but bare minimum 15 minutes a day. Focus, right? List what you want to do or learn. Pick the top 1. And I'm very specific about just pick 1. Please just focus on 1 and work on it only. Do not be distracted. Do not try and achieve various goals at the same time. Pick just 1. You want to learn a new language, you want to learn Korean, pick it and stick to it. Agility, keep track of your progress. Adjust if your progress is not great, right? If you can keep track, I've been doing it in this way, but it's not great. I'm not meeting my goal. Let's try something else, right? An example, I guess, is if you want to lose weight, right? If you can track, use an application, you buy a tool or a weighing machine that has a way for you to link like Bluetooth, via Bluetooth to your application to track your progress. If it's suboptimal, change up something. Perhaps you're eating too much or something, or you're not moving around enough, right? If you can't measure it, you cannot improve it. So now those 3 things combined are elements of the growth mindset, which form some sort of super hare tortoise, right? A creature that is probably as mythical as, say, unicorns. But they do exist. Seek out these people. Soak up their infectious habits. And if you need a hint for where to find them, here's one. There are quite a number of them here that you can talk to later today, right, at the coaching session. And I'm also humbled to work alongside such people at ThoughtWorks every day, which is where I derived my material today from. So with that, thank you very much.